Bluff City Media presents the $2 Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the $2 Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, coming to you for the last time from Martin, Tennessee. I want to welcome in my co-host, Uncle Buck. Welcome to the show, sir.
Glad to be here, Rusty. It is another day in paradise here in Northeast Mississippi. It's not beautiful outside, I'll tell you that, but it's another day above ground, which is always a good thing.
That's it, man. As long as you're on this side of the dirt, you are doing just fine. We're getting some rain here, and I'll get into some of why that's a problem in a minute in my beef. We're starting to get a little rain here in Martin, but otherwise, life is good, man. Life is real good right now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy for you. I don't know that you've been in Martin or in that house long enough to be sad to walk out. I know my wife is the sentimental about possessions, about things, about grandma's old dressers and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. For me, I can close a chapter and move on. And I'm more anti-clutter and efficiency.
Yeah.
And less sentimental hoarder, And so, I don't know. You tell me. You're leaving Martin. You've been there since the first part of December. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you've made some friends, which would probably be the hardest part. But, do you ever, in your moves, just be like, I'm going to miss this space,
Not this one. No. When I was leaving my condo in Myrtle Beach for the last time the other day, it was like, man, I'm going to miss this place. It's, it's close to the ocean. Like that was more like a home. I was there for over a year. Right.
Right.
And this one just being here a few short months. There are things I like about it. I like being walking distance to work because that's not going to be the case in Memphis anymore.
Right.
I'm going to miss some of the restaurants, little places around here. I do have some good friends. I had some great coworkers. The clinic director, Brian, my coworkers have become more like friends. Right.
Right.
One of them I'll see a lot more in Memphis. Unfortunately, I'm not real sure yet, but we'll find out. Craig's tagging along, but yeah, just I'll miss the people.
The Craigs take on Memphis.
That's it, man. But the Craigs are coming to town.
For those of you who don't know, Rusty's full name is not even Rusty or Musty or Buckets. It's Russell Craig.
That's the government name.
the Craigs are going to Memphis. So I'm excited for you, man. I've not been, when I move out of this house, if I ever do, I will feel sad, because this is where I brought my kids home to, that whole thing, my first home. But no place I've ever moved out before I've ever held any sentimental value. I moved out of an apartment in Starkville. I moved out of my parents' house. I moved out of an apartment in Jackson. And every time I just like, okay, hey, on to the next. I'm tired of being here anyways.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I like this little rental house. It's been fine for me. It's not real big. It's just me and Shelbs here anyway, so I don't need a ton of space. It's conveniently located, but yeah, I'm not going to miss it. It's, Misty Manise, shout out if you're listening. Thanks for letting me be in your home and rent it,
right.
But ready to be moving on to the next great adventure. That's for sure.
Well, cheers to that.
Yeah. Hey, cheers, brother.
And
you and your little Stanley Cup there. Your basic white girl Stanley Cup.
I'm telling you, the other day, this is the $2 Sports Show, so I'll tell this story. I got this Stanley as a gift from work. So it was administrative professionals day or whatnot. And so they gave all the receptionists and all the customer service people, office managers, a Stanley, and it's got the company logo on it. And it was a gift. And just because I'm in the same building, even though I'm not an administrative professional, they get me one every year. And so I was like, okay, you can tell this is a gift for women, but I'll take it. I mean, even the color is like a real pretty blue,
Yeah.
And so yesterday, Haley has obviously been off work for 8 weeks of school, and she went back to school this week. And obviously, Banks' 2-month doctor's appointment, the first appointment where he gets shots, fell this week. So she was just like, I can't. And I was like, okay, I'll take him. She don't like to give the baby shots anyways. I just had a moment where I got out of got out of the van at the pediatrician's office with my Stanley, a diaper bag, and a car seat. And I was like, I'm a woman.
That's as close as you've ever been.
I'm telling you, like, I was like, am I staying home, Mom? Like, what? I've got a minivan toting a 2-month-old in a minivan to a pediatrician's appointment with a Stanley. It's like, I got to go, like, get a can of snuff and go work slinging wood around something this weekend to balance the scales back out.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you kind of brought yourself down, right? You built that deck, you and your dad, Manly, Tim Allen, kind of activities. Now you're toting a diaper bag and Stanley. It's the best of both worlds.
Right. I mean, get you a man that can do both. You know what I'm saying?
Ladies, get you a man that can do both.
So, Rusty, you just had a big trip. You took a little vacation to Myrtle Beach. I'm sure that's going to be part of your best of the week. So we're going to start our Bucks best and beef of the week with Rusty's best of the week. Hit us with it.
I mean, yeah, man, like I don't know how much, better it could be. I had a great vacation. It was good time away, much needed time away, and what's been a very busy season. Great company. Couldn't have asked for better company on the trip. Had a great time. I had a beef originally, but I've got another beef. On our way there, my wheel bearing went out, as I've told Uncle Buck about in Atlanta. Truck started shaking worse than it normally does. Tires started smoking. But
for long-time listeners of the show, you've known that this was coming.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was shocked, myself included. The only person who was shocked is Bradley at Shoals Auto Care on the east side of Atlanta. Shout out, no free shout outs. My man may or may not have only one eye, but he came out and I was like, hey, man, my tire's coming off my truck. And he goes, whoa, because my driver's tire was sitting straight up. Yours? And the other tire was at an angle, and that's not what you want to see. Yeah. But he had me, man. He could have really, charged me whatever, but he cut me a good deal, got me up and rolling within an hour, and we ended up parlaying that into a nice little stay in Augusta instead of driving all the way into Myrtle Beach. So it was a great trip. Got to go to Frank's, took her to the Marsh Walk, got to hang out down there where Drew and I have infamously sang and danced a couple times. My favorite restaurant in the world, Frank's, got to go there and have dinner there in Pawleys Island. It was a great trip, great getaway. Again, started with some drama, but finished with just an awesome trip. Really, really much needed vacation time. And kind of made me miss the Carolina coast. I really like it out there. I've got some good friends. It's beautiful. Drew has seen it. It's a great place to go visit. But I do love being in the Mid-South, man. But, yeah, thanks. Yeah, good trip for sure. My best of the week is obviously vacation.
Yeah. My best of the week is just being able to, how do I put this? So you don't want to compare yourself to people, you don't want to, like I'm a short dude, I'm 5'5", and I don't like people being like, oh, well, you're short. It's like everything's comparative,
Right.
And so I've prided myself for being a good son. I never gave my parents too much trouble, but there was some times there where they wanted to ring me up, typical stuff, nothing crazy. But when I hear stories about all the Porter brothers, I just called my mom and I would just be like, you think you had it bad? Let's just put everything in perspective right now, because one of them just got banned from the NBA for gambling. The other one just got sent to prison for vehicular manslaughter. And then the other one just got sent to jail for DWI. So, Mom, take a minute and just appreciate me, okay?
Count your blessings.
I know there were nights that I didn't answer my phone when you wanted me to, and I know you found things in my car that you didn't approve of, but at least I stayed out of the clink. You know what I'm saying?
We missed curfew once or twice, but again, Mama never had to look at me through prison bars, thankfully.
I think the only time that my dad really got upset with me was one night. We went out for a friend's birthday. We went to Florence, Alabama. Went and ate at Rosie's Cantina, the Mexican restaurant. Went to
so good.
Listened to some music at Flobama across the street. And, I was young, and it was before I straightened up. And so I, wisely enough, had a friend drive me home, okay? And I woke up that morning with a bunch of calls and texts and stuff from my dad, being like, where are you? Where are you? Your car's not here. Where are you? And I was just like, Dad, I'm upstairs, you know, and I didn't tell him I came home because that would have been admitting guilt, you know?
Right.
And so it was obvious. He was just kind of like, well, glad you're here. We're going to go get the post hole diggers out and dig holes to put in some to put in rearrange the floor joists on the deck. So I was underneath the deck digging with post hole diggers, and I've never wanted to jump off of a moving train more than that more in my life. And I was like, no, never again. Not built for it. Not built for it.
No.
So all things serious, I do feel really bad for Mrs. Porter Jr. and for Michael Porter Jr. because that dude just wants to play basketball, man. And
he just wants to hoop. And I mean, God bless him. Like, he's at least winning in basketball. The rest of them are losing at life.
yeah. I feel bad for the guys, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what is your beef of the week?
Well, my beef of the week is also stemming from moving, but so I part of me going was I had some stuff still left in my condo that I needed to get rid of. And so sold a bunch of stuff, made some good money. That was great. But I brought back my bed and a couple pieces that I'm going to take to the new house in Memphis, right? Well, I'm in this small house. I don't really have a ton of room in here for a king size mattress, a queen size bed, a bed frame, some end tables. Like, it'd get crowded pretty quick in here. It's a small house.
Queen size bed, but a king size mattress.
I've got a king size. I've got two mattresses on my truck right now. A king size and a queen size mattress, and then a king size bed frame. I'm going to build a little foreshadowing. I'm going to build a Murphy bed for the queen bed in my guest room at my new place. Anyway, I digress. So I get here and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense still. Well, first of all, I didn't get in until late Monday night because of traffic in Atlanta. There ain't enough money in this world for me to move to Atlanta.
Not even close.
First, my truck breaks down there. Then we sit in traffic for over 2 hours on the drive home. We left Myrtle Beach. We're supposed to get back to Jackson around 7. We didn't get there until 9:30 Monday night. But I am currently, for those of you that are fans of a classic TV show, that if you don't like it, I don't know if we can be friends. I'm currently riding around like the Clampetts. I've got bed frames. I've got a rug hanging out the back of my truck. I got 2 mattresses up on top. I've got them all ratchet strapped on because it didn't make sense to take them off, right? Well, we live in the Mid-South where the weather changes about every 15 minutes, right?
Right.
So on the drive home, I bought a tarp at Walmart and covered it up, and it was great. Got me all the way back here to Martin. Instead, tarp got shredded in the drive because I bought a light duty tarp like an idiot. Yeah. I never claimed to be the brains of this sports show. That's for sure. So I bought a heavy duty. Never claimed
that there is brains on this sports show.
Somebody on this show once famously said we're a talking podcast, not a thinking podcast. Anyway, So I bought 2 heavy duty tarps that are now currently bungee strapped, taped, and ratchet strapped on top of said mattresses on the back of my truck to make it look even more like the Beverly Hillbillies as I'm rolling around Martin, Tennessee for these last few days because I don't want to unload it and then have to reload it because I'm lazy. And then and now I've got tarps on it because it's friggin' rain tonight. So if y'all see me rolling around Martin, Tennessee for the next day and a half, mind your business.
I'm not homeless. I'm just because I'm gonna tell you, putting a tarp on for moving furniture is an art form because it is impossible to get those things to stay. And if you do it right, you don't take that tarp off until you're done. Like I can sympathize with you because I have shredded tarps. I have put tarps on that don't shred but just shift and are useless by the time.
And then you got a kite.
I'm just over here just flapping in the wind. And so if you get a tarp on correctly to where it's doing its job and it's riding safely at 70 to 75 miles an hour, then you do not take that tarp off for anything
until it is absolutely necessary.
That's it.
Real quick, since we're just rambling this in our best and beef, the Beverly Hillbillies did win me tickets to a Randy Houser concert way back in like 2012. So I was listening to Kicks 106 out of Memphis. And they had a contest for Randy Houser tickets and said, you got to call in and tell us what's the first thing you know. And everybody was calling in saying your mama's voice or how to cry or breathe or crawl or your mom, parents' face or whatever.
Like, what's the first thing you remember? Like from childhood?
The question was, what's the first thing you know? Okay. And I just watched the Beverly Hillbillies.
I like that.
And so I called in, and I was like the 15th call. They found like, hey, Kicks 106, what's the first thing you know? I said, old Jed's a millionaire. And they said, winner. And I won the tickets because it was from the opening song. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. Right when he hits the crude oil in his backyard.
Right.
So shout out to the
Beverly
Beverly
Hillbilly. A man named Jed, a poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. Then
That's
one
it.
day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground comes a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Yeah. So
black gold. And then he says, well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. And that won me Randy Hauser tickets way back in the day. So
hey, good. Hey, I think you earned those tickets. How was Randy Hauser? Did you even claim it?
Yeah, I did. I went. The concert was awesome. He is a fantastic entertainer. This is right after Going Out My Boots on came out, and he got famous. This was an awesome concert at the Landers Center. It was something different way back then, but it's the Landers Center in South Haven. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, cool.
What's your beef of the week?
You know, my beef of the week is going. My daughter had a softball game today, and I'm way too competitive. And so last year, I've never volunteered to coach a team before. And last year, I was voluntold to coach 2. And so then it kind of gets my juices flowing. I'm just like, oh, this is fun. You know, I like kind of being in control. I honestly love the age group of girls that my daughter's in because they were like, they're more receptive than my son's age, which is like 7-year-old boys who were just kicking rocks the whole time, you know? And so, and they like looked at me like I was cool. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of ego thing, I guess. They called me coach and, you know, cared. Like when I talked, they looked at me, you know, something that the 7-year-old boys don't do. And so I was come to sign up again this year. And Haley was like, listen, she's like, I know you love it. And I don't want to if you want to do it, fine, you know, but we've got a newborn and a 2-year-old, and a lot of times the kids are playing games at the same time. It's just a lot for me to handle. And I was like, you know, you're right. You know, there'll be times for this, you know, later on. I can do it next year or whatever. Turns out I was asked to coach the boys team, which is fine. We're having a good time and whatnot. But my daughter got put on a team, and the coach does not say a word. Like, just doesn't coach. And this is like the first year of coach pitch. And so like there's pass balls constantly. And so we're just like, let's just keep running. You know, you're allowed to steal, whatnot. And they'll walk the bases loaded and pass ball. And the coach never even looks at the girls, but like, run. And so he never says a word.
Jeez.
And so I find myself on the sidelines or in the stands, just coaching, like yelling, like situations, like, hey, a lot of the girls are the same girls that was on my team last year. So I'm just sitting there yelling, like, hey, runner on first, you touch second base, fit, you know, and first baseman. Chloe's playing first base. So Chloe, if you get it, just step on the base, you know, and if whatever you do, just don't just throw the ball around the field because nobody can throw, nobody can catch, and they just keep running. Just you get the ball, hold it,
just
you know,
run it in. Yeah.
And I told myself I wasn't going to be that guy. I didn't want to be that parent. I wanted to be an observer, to cheer for my child. As a parent, I don't even want to instruct my child when they're on the field because I don't feel like it's my role. It's my role to support. I'm not going to yell at officials. I'm not going to be like, hey, you know, keep your head down, you know, swing with your whole body, open your hips when you swing. I don't want to do that because I'm stepping on the coach's foot. But he does nothing. Nothing. It drives me absolutely crazy.
Coach, if you're listening, man, step up. Coach these girls. Coach them up. Yell at them. Get passionate. Tell them to run. Do something. Otherwise, Uncle Buck's going to charge the mound.
I had Braxton played the other day, and I am the coach of that team. And they don't understand the minute details. Baseball is such a hard game to teach a young kid because, you know, there's force plays and sometimes you step on the bag. Sometimes you have to tag them, you know.
Situational baseball is tough to teach.
Yeah. Both of my kids are left-handed. The older 2 are left-handed, and which is backwards. But I put them both at first base. Braxton's played in first base. Chloe's playing first base. And Braxton, out of nowhere, when we throw in the backyard, he hardly ever catches the ball. Caught 3 different balls at his last game in the air. Yeah. And in the moment, I'm just like, and he's never heard this before. There's runners on base, and they just take off. And in the moment, I'm trying to explain to him, throw it to the base, and he's looking at me like, why in the world would I throw it to second base? I caught the ball, I win. Just let's move on. And I'm just like, throw it, and I'm doing the Carlton Fisk down the baseline, like, just jumping to third base, Sammy Sosa, just heels touching in the air, and I'm like, throw it. And then he wait. It's like 15 seconds. He's thinking about it. And he's just like, okay, I guess I'll just throw it, and chucks it into the left field. And I'm just like, okay. Oh, this little patented Rusty Buckets move,
That's it.
So that's my beef for the week. Like, these are kids. You don't take it seriously, but in the same time, it's about development, it's about coaching, it's about having fun. So don't be scared. I'm never scared to embarrass myself, especially like stuff like this. Like, I'm animated, be animated, have fun,
Absolutely.
Get in it. The guy, it just seems like he's just not having fun coaching. And I'm just like, if you can't have fun,
coaching kids,
do something else, watch.
That's it. And the kids are going to feed off.
It may be more fun for you to watch than coach. And if that's okay, that's your thing. That's your thing. Everybody needs every coach and every team needs good spectators. But if you're going to spectate, do it outside the fence.
Yeah, shout out to my brother Clark. He does a really good job of that with his kids as their baseball coach. Gets those kids fired up. I went and watched practice last time I was in Corinth, and he had those little kids. It's their first year of coach pitch, kind of like you were talking about. They're having a blast, man, just hyping them up, having fun. He does the same with his high school athletes, right? Like, yelling at them, hollering at them, but then like celebrating with them and like be that person, right? Be the energy because they're going to feed off of that. And like you said, it doesn't have to take it serious. Don't be that Kyle or that Karen. No offense to the Kyles and Karens out there, but like, have fun with it. Be passionate. Be excited when they do something well, and then be excited to coach them up to do the right thing.
Yeah, and it's all at this age group. I just feel like there's very few things that are more important than just having a good time. That's what it is. And so just go out there and have a good time. Nothing has made me happier than going in there because I'm competitive. And you go in the bottom of the inning and we're batting, and it's happened a few times where I just said, hey, everybody here, listen, you score 3 runs, you win.
Yeah.
And then there's like, all right, let's go. And then you go and you bat around, you win, and it's fun. And it's just,
and it means everything to those kids.
Look like
everything to those kids. Yeah.
Right.
It means everything to those kids. They're going to lean into that. They're going to remember that. Like that's all they got right now. When I talk to my nephews, all they talk about are their ball games and their scores and hits and things they did. It matters to them.
And this is rec league ball. I mean, some of these kids, including maybe one or both of mine, are going to, as they get older, realize that this just isn't for them. And so it doesn't have to be competitive because there's some kids out there that don't know what they're doing. You can tell that it's probably not cut out for them long term. So just make it fun. Yeah. Like as a coach, just make it fun, Yeah. And I feel like that's lost in competitive baseball because competitive baseball is getting younger and younger every year. And so just go out there and have a good time.
It's meant to teach fun activities and good exercise. And you're right. People are taking it way too serious, way too young. But that makes me think of some of my coworkers I was speaking of earlier do CrossFit with me in the mornings. There's about 3 or 4 of them that typically come and we work out in the mornings. And like, I yell at them all the time. I'm like, be athletic. Like what you're doing is not athletic. Be athletic.
Right.
It's just like, I just made me think of that. Like, just do it, man. I don't know. Just do it. Just be athletic.
Yeah. And see, my thing is like, I could do a whole separate like parenting podcast. Like some of the things that like we struggle with because like common sense is like not in the repertoire for like my kids. They're geniuses. I'm talking like
book smart
IQ scores in the 99th percentile, but they can't work themselves out of a wet paper sack, And so like for me, you're talking about like you tell your friends, just be athletic. I want to look at my kids and especially Chloe. I just want to be like, just work through it because she's one of those. It's like she hits a problem and she's just like, ugh, and I'm just like, go, you're gonna suck.
Yep.
Go suck. Learn why you sucked, and then be better next time. It's a mindset. Just always try to get a little better, and I feel like that's something that comes with age. But I feel like I'm having a hard time getting through, you know, and so
you develop that early too, that flight, fight, or freeze mentality when you hit a problem, right? Like you can't freeze because that's never going to work, but you got to figure out if you need to run, if you need to fight, or what you need to do. And like you said, oftentimes you trial by fire where you go out there and you screw up and then you figure out why you screwed up and you don't screw up that way again. You may screw up again, but not that way.
And like my dad, and I'm sure your dad was the same way. It was like, all right, figure it out. You know, I'm going to close this door. When you figure it out, you can come out, you know, kind of thing. I'm just like,
absolutely.
You know, I don't want to do that, but I'm just kind of like, sometimes I just find myself watching and just be like, you're going to figure this out in a second. So, you know, I'm not going to help. Like, you're going to work yourself out of this. It's not that hard, you know? And so it's just like a mind, but it's the mindset of how, like, I want them to have the mindset, like, okay, I've had a problem. What's the problem? Like identify it and overcome it and then move on instead of problem, throw your hands up in the air. Uncle Buck, I need help. And I'm just going to be like, figure it out, you know?
I mean, I do that with my coworkers all the time. Like they come to me like, hey, how do I do this? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you do that? And I know the whole time, and I know it probably pisses him off too, because it did me when I was a child, and I'm sure I have the same thing.
Oh yeah,
my dad had this look of just like smudgeness, as Michael Scott would say, just smudgeness. Like
there's the smudgeness.
There's the smudgeness. He just looked just so smug. Like I'm like, Dad, how'd I do this? And he'd be like, how do you do that?
On your
son?
way.
I'm like, I'm just trying to, like, Dad, just give me the answer. I'm in a hurry, and that's my thing. I'm in a hurry.
But
just give me the answer. And he would always say, absolutely. He would always say, no, like figure it out. And when you figure it out, let me know. And like he'd get that look of like satisfaction. I'm sure only dads can relate to, or moms, you know, no discrimination here. Of like when your child is figuring out a problem and like they're doing it. You're just like, like you're getting it. Or then when I'm going the wrong direction, that look of just utter disappointment, like this, like he's like, Lee, we don't need to save for college for this one. It's okay.
So, okay, that's our little parenting gripe session / football gripe, reckley baseball, softball gripe session. We went 30 minutes on this first segment here, and so appreciate you. This is the $2 Sports Show. We say this a lot. This is the Uncle Buck and Buckets Sports Show, and so if you're here at this point, it's because you like us, and so this is just us. This is our life. This is what we talk about. This whole show, almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, was started just by replicating our weekly phone call onto a show, and so that's what we're getting. You're getting us in our entirety. So personal lives, we've got that out of the way. We've ended. We've talked about what's made us happy this week. In our next segment, we're going to get to sports, and we're going to have 2 segments of sports here, starting with the NBA playoffs right after our first commercial break. But first, let me tell you about Vicky Gann CPA. If the name sounds familiar, it's because it's my last name. This is my mother, and she is a certified public accountant. She has 25 years of experience in income taxes, personal or business income tax, payroll, you name it, she can do it. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, or you filed an extension, or you have just questions, call Vicky Gann. Her cell phone number is 662-415-6446. Also, if you or a loved one, families, friends, whatever, own a small business and want to use QuickBooks, or currently use QuickBooks and have questions, call Mom. She is a QuickBooks expert. I know, because I used to be at home by myself after school, because she was going to continuing education things on QuickBooks. So take my word for it. Call Vicky Gann. She can help you out with whatever you need. You can call her at 662-415-6446 or email her at vickyganncpa@gmail.com. That's VICKIGANNCPA@gmail.com.
Not just the level of individual talent that he plays with, but it's also the level of his mind. We haven't gotten cross-court open shot this year. We haven't seen that pass a lot. Number one, you got to respect him going to the basket. There's a roller. I got to watch the roller. He has the mind to be able to say, I see all of that, but now I see this guy over here. I'm going to get him this open shot. How shifty he is to always be going forward. It's usually side to side.
Yeah.
His dribble moves are side to side, but going forward.
Right.
Which is very hard to defend. I just want to get you, as many times can I get you to do this? But for him, it's not here. It is here. which is what are his moves to get down the floor. It's awkward for a defender to try to catch a cadence. You dribble. So now what I do is now when you go put that ball down, I'm going for it. But with him, it's hard for my cadence. But what's my cadence for you? I don't know what it is.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Who do you need to step it up? Outside of David Jones, I think David Jones is David Jones.
I don't think you need him to step it up because he's been performing.
Yeah, like he's David Jones. Like outside of him, he's fine.
I think Quinterly needs to play better.
In what way? Like, I mean, he's facilitating the ball well. I mean, what do you like? I don't.
To a 12 from the field's not cutting it.
It's not great. It's not great.
And I don't need a runner 3 from the top of the key with 3.5 seconds left.
Is Virginia the game where Jordan Brown is going to cook? Those dudes aren't looking to run the ball.
Cook what? Dude, I thought he was going to have a freaking night. He came out with that fresh cut, lined up, and then literally within the first 15 seconds missed a wide open layup. And then picked up 2 fouls right away.
I feel real lied to because I thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy.
Didn't think it did anything for you.
Well,
I think we all thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy. And we are getting that in David Jones.
I'm not even getting 20 or 10 minutes out of the guy.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Come back to the $2 Sports Show as I was still muted, come back from commercial for some reason. I appreciate all y'all still being here. And like Uncle Buck said before the break, we're going to dive into some NBA content. But before we do, just a quick reminder, $5 a month, Uncle Buck and I will cover your first month if you join the Discord to hang out with us, the content creators you saw in the previous ads. We've got some new ones coming on board with the new show with Pete, with Brev and Fish Nation. Rob Fisher, super stoked to have those guys on this network. We're bringing you some incredible talent. And then there's the $2 Sports Show. So you can come check it all out on bluffcity.co. Join $5 a month, gets you access to all of us in the Discord. A lot of cool, fun things planned for our show. I know other shows have that. And like Uncle Buck has said, it's not just Mid-South, NBA, Grizz, Tigers forums, right? There's bets, there's college football, NFL, there's wrestling, there's Memphis Life, there's general, like there's tickets, there's all kind of things that are going on in the Discord. $5 a month. Come hang with us in the Discord.
Yeah, some people are saying that this is the biggest splash that Bluff City Media has made since they brought on the $2. Some people are saying
that. I saw it on Twitter.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been watching the Grizzlies for like, I don't know, 15 years now. Heat, Brevin, and Fish are like in the pantheon of Grizzlies celebrities for me. Like the Mount Rushmore are the Bally Sports guys. You know, Pete, Brevin, Fish, and Chris Vernon. The post-game show is just like, I mean, they're like, you know, royalty to me watching Grizzlies.
There's video evidence of us like fangirling out behind them. Like we are all in. And then to have like the basketball mind that is Brevin Knight, the basketball insider that is Rob Fisher, this show is going to be incredible. So
check out Night Court. Check out Night Court. It comes out. It starts on Bluff City Media this month. Stay tuned for that. Be plugged in on that. And Brevin, Fish, come be our friends.
That's right. We have a capability in our spaceship to add one more to the stage. So we can't have you both at the same time, although I'll gladly kick Uncle Buck out, but we'll take you one at a time and put you all on the show. Well, hey, listen, so we've been doing middle sections where we talk about our Grizz. Segment 2 has always been our Grizz segment. We've switched kind of transition to NBA playoffs. And look, by the time our show airs, a lot of games have happened. A lot of things have been going on. Y'all know the scores. Y'all know what's going on in the playoffs. So I want to get your take on a couple things, Uncle Buck. Okay. We're talking off air about how we can kind of, progress our show and continue to make it better. We're always trying to bring the best product to our people, to our loyal fans.
Best product. Are we? This show is getting a little weird if we're bringing the best product.
Listen, it's $2 after dark. All of a sudden, my mind is elsewhere, man. My mind is elsewhere. Anyway, moving right along.
I know where it's at, and it's not chicken wings.
No, sir. Moving right along. So, Uncle Buck, you've been watching these games, these playoff games. We've seen some phenomenal performances. You know, Tyrese Maxey of the night was unconscious winning that game for the 76ers. We've seen Bobby Portis have big games. We've seen like Luka has stepped up. We've had some phenomenal performances. Jalen Brunson, who has been or who multiple have been your MVPs so far in the NBA playoffs?
Oh, yeah, you did put me on the spot. I mean, it's given that last performance, it's hard not to put Maxey up there. I mean, he did just go nuclear to save that game, and the Knicks played their part in giving that game away in a home Game 5 elimination game for the Sixers. They gave their part, but the Knicks would not have. I mean, the Sixers would not have even been close if not for Tyrese Maxey just going absolutely supersonic. I think honestly, if you've got to give one MVP, and this is, don't be a prisoner of the moment. Think back for the whole playoffs. That I mean, we're 12 days in at this point. There's a unanimous MVP, and that's Ant. I mean, to dismantle the Suns the way that he did, to sweep them, a team that's got as much star power as any team in the league, for him to go 4 games, 4-0, and none of the games even be close, and to be the unquestioned best player on the court for 4 consecutive games on a court that has Kevin Durant on it, Devin Booker, Cat, Bradley Beal. He was the unquestioned alpha, and it's just absolutely blown my socks off. And
you stole some of my, because Ant was one I was thinking of for sure. But he just dominated that series. Again, not being a prisoner of the moment, but Jokic really just stepped up.
Yeah.
Worked the Lakers. I mean, they just have an answer. Anthony, AD is made of paper mache. He didn't have a single answer for him. I hated that we didn't get to see like playoff Zion in that Thunder Pelican series, but nobody really stood out. SGA had some good games, but I think, you're right. You nailed it. It's Anthony. It's Ant and then everybody else, because just the way that from the threes to the big dunks to the defensive possessions, like Ant stepped up on both ends. And like you said, a Suns roster, which we'll get to some of that later in this segment, that's pretty loaded. And he was the best player head and shoulders on that court.
Yeah. And I think that Jokic, he kind of suffers from he's a 2-time MVP. He's going to win a third this year. It's
fatigue.
It's kind of expected, and Ant had that wow factor with the sweep of the Suns. Minnesota had not won a playoff series since Kevin Garnett in what was that, 04, 03. It was 20-something
somewhere in there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so to go up there and just dominate the way that he did, it was impressive. And, I don't like the whole who's the next face of the league. It seems like Grizzlies fans and it's like a Ja versus Ant conversation now. Like, Grizzlies fans are kind of, some of them are kind of like, you forget about Ja, everybody's talking about Ant, but Ja's still here. But this is part of Ja's, rehabilitation is kind of being knocked off the pedestal a little bit.
Chip on his shoulder.
And Uncle Buck here, at least one half of the 2 Buck Sports Show, is going to say that Ant is absolutely legit. He's amazing. He is a candidate for the face, at least the American player face of the league. And that's not a shot at Ja either. When Ja comes back, he's going to show how good he is. He's going to show that he's just as good as he was in 23. He'll be just as good in 25, if not better. And then we'll have that conversation again. But no shot at Ja by saying Ant was, amazing.
And I said that the other day on the Daily Grind. He's fun. He's got an edge. He's got an MJ kind of killer to him. But he's doing it with a smile, and he's talking trash to Kevin Durant, and he's grinning after dunks and big threes. But I talked about that on the Daily Grind the other day. Like, Ant and Ja are 1 and 1A in best players in the league under 25. I picked Ant when we did it the other day with Luke, simply because Ant is currently playing right now. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, like you said. But I think this time next year we could have that same conversation, and I'll be like, Ja Morant is head and shoulders better. He's obviously the best player under 25, because both those guys are so talented, and their skill sets are very similar in the way they attack the rim, explosiveness, Ja maybe a little bit more because he is a little bit smaller than Ant. But the way those dudes can get to the rim is unbelievable.
Yeah, and Ant's just got that thing. He's got that Mamba mentality about him. He's got that.
Killer.
He's got that killer, and Ja does too on the offensive end. But Ant can lock, he can go full Kobe on you, full MJ, where he's going to be the best player on offense and defense if he makes his up his mind to be. You know, Ja may not just have that. He doesn't have that aspect to his game yet on the defensive end, and it's because he's slider, maybe a little smaller, whatever. It's not a knock against Ja, but Ant has got that in spades, man, and he's a killer, man. He hit Kevin Durant, his childhood hero, he said, to go hit a three in his face and then jawing at him as he's backing down the court, doing the motion like he's yanking his chain. Like, I love it.
I'm here. I'm like, inject that in my veins. I'm here for that.
If Rudy Gobert wasn't on that team, I'd have an Ant jersey.
Absolutely. like I told, I'm rooting for Mike and Ant and Slow-Mo to get a ring. I wish there was a way that Gobert Cat wouldn't, but yeah, because pun intended, because I've already went to college, but Ant's got that dog in him. And speaking of dog, man, Jalen Brunson is the same way. Jalen Brunson he kept the Knicks in that game the other night that they lost. Currently it's Thursday night. He's having a night tonight in the Knicks Sixers game. I love the way, and it's cool, Drew. This kind of goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier with competitive travel baseball, but watching that Knicks team. I don't know that I can think of a team, and you might can because you're more of the cerebral basketball fan. I just appreciate the sport. And again, I'm to quote Forrest Gump, I'm not a smart man, but I digress. So you got the New York Knicks, you've got the Villanova three, right? You've got Josh Hart, you got Jalen Brunson, you got DiVincenzo. You got these guys who have been playing together 8, 10, 12 years now, right? I mean, they've been together a long time. And so that chemistry matters in basketball. And so I don't know that they're necessarily the next big three like you would see with some of these big time players, but there's something to be said about chemistry in basketball, and we're seeing that in this Knicks Sixers series, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, and it kind of goes hand in hand with just the DNA of the team. You know, I don't necessarily, I think that it takes time to acclimate. I think it takes. You look at the Suns. And I know we're going to get into that because I got some thoughts on them. But, you throw these super teams together and it takes them a year. Even the Heatles, the Bosh, Wade, LeBron Heat team, they did make the finals the first year, but they got whipped, in the finals, in a weak Eastern Conference to get to the finals. It just takes time. Now, I don't think you necessarily need 7 or 8 years like these Villanova players have got with the Knicks. That's probably maybe a little overplayed once it get to that many years, because you're still, everybody on the floor is still professional basketball players but I do think you need a couple of years. But I think what helps the Knicks, you've got that cohesiveness, but it's also the grit that they play with that I respect so much. It's the hard-nosed bulldog. I would root for guys like Josh Hart for eternity if they were Grizzlies. I just love the mindset that guys like Hart and Brunson and McBride and Mitchell Robinson, I mean, they just go after it, man. Yeah.
There's no quit on either end of the floor. On either end of the floor.
And you compare that. I have in this postseason, I have went 180 degrees on Joel Embiid. I hate him now. I can't stand him.
Welcome to the club.
I've always respected him and whatnot. I've thought that as a big man scorer, he may be the best since Olajuwon, and that still may be true. And with the exception of Shaq, but just a shooting big man moves kind of style center, but he is 7'2" James Harden. You've got
absolutely. He flops like a fish.
I mean, we're watching this game right now. It is Thursday night. It is 8:50 God's time here on Thursday night, and the Philadelphia 76ers have to win a game at their home court, and they are currently getting beat 11 points here, and they were down 20 in the first quarter. But Embiid, if it weren't for Maxey in game 4, let's see, this is game This is game 6.
This
In
game
game
six.
5.
Game 5.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In game 5, if it weren't for Maxey, then the Sixers are dead. They're swept.
They're in combo.
You know, Embiid has been trash every fourth quarter. When it matters most, he shrinks. And you saw the same thing with Harden. It's the reason why I hate Harden. They gave up a 31-point lead and barely won in Dallas in their game before last. And then they go home with a chance to take a commanding lead, go up 3-2, knowing that they've got game 7 at home if they just hold serve at home in game 5.
Mhm.
And they just get beat by 30. He turns
Yeah.
into nothing.
Yeah.
My favorite little bit is that they do it on the Chris Vernon show. They say tour date numbers because he went 2 for 17. It just looks like the back of a tour date shirt, month and day. He went like 2 for 17, just trash when it matters most. And you mark my words, they play, I think, tomorrow night or Friday night. They'll play either Friday or Saturday night. They'll play a game 6 in Dallas. And I promise you, flip it, James Harden will be terrible.
Yeah.
And the Clippers will lose.
Absolutely. It's like Embiid ducking Jokic, right? Like Ryan Howard of the Philadelphia Phillies has played in the state of Colorado more recently than Joel Embiid has. And Howard retired in like 2014. It's like one of my favorite sports stats of all time.
Yeah.
And like, again, when the moment is the brightest, Embiid has been shrinking. And they showed it. They were talking to somebody who called it. Somebody called him the James Harden big man because of the little scoop that he does to draw fouls. Yeah, I saw it on a Cubs game the other night.
I came up with something with that. But okay.
I'm impressed. I'm still gonna give you credit. I'm impressed by it. But like, yeah, I mean, he's made a paper mache. You can't breathe on him. He goes flying. But
he is 7'2". That comes with inherent physical ailments.
I mean, sure.
But he falls all the time.
And that's part of why he's hurt all the time. Because like Shaq was big like this, and he didn't stay hurt. Olajuwon, David Robinson, there's been like Marc Gasol, they've been healthy big men because they don't go floor to the floor every time a 6 foot, nothing guard bumps into them. They stay on their feet. You're 7'2". Yeah. Stay on your freaking feet. That's why your knees hurt. You keep falling on them, man. Like stay on your feet. He's not
like Wemby and Porzingis. They're like a $165 soaking win.
No, he's a load. He's a lug. But he plays soft. He's soft. And so, I think there's a chance that if they get beat, this is going to hurt his reputation among purists, but he'll still be the media darling and he'll still get the love. But speaking of reputations.
PR savvy.
Yeah, I mean, he is.
I tweeted it out and I almost felt bad about it after I did it. But, after he laid a clunker and I don't know if it's game 3 or whatever. Yeah, he was terrible. And then he came out immediately. Like he couldn't have even gotten showered yet. And the stories were out that he's suffering with Bell's palsy. And I was like, I get it, but if you would have won that game, this wouldn't have been a story. You wouldn't have come out with it. Like you were saving it. He'd been struggling with this for days. People were wondering why he's wearing sunglasses during shoot around, this whole thing. But the story didn't come out until right after he pooped the bed and they lost.
Well, so it was going to come out one way or the other. Either he's a hero and played through Bell's palsy, or he didn't have a great game because he had Bell's palsy. That's what they were holding on to that for.
I think he saves those for clunkers.
100%. Yeah, I mean, maybe. But speaking of clunkers and reputation, I think we're finally starting to see some of the evolution of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum in the playoffs because they absolutely murdered the Heat the other night. And that's been a knock on them, right? It's like they're never good at the same time. And they both had 25 the other night. Jaylen Brown was still 1 for 7 from 3, but is this Celtics team still the favorite in the East? Personally, I don't know if, we've talked about it. We've talked about it on the Daily Grind. I like the way this Knicks team is playing basketball. If the Cavs can get Jared Allen back, get him back, healthy, and B, they actually beat the Magic, I don't know that the Celtics are as inevitable anymore as the Denver Nuggets are on the West. Any thoughts on that?
I would have put a lot of money on them to make the finals, and Vegas had the odds that way, to get out of the East. And I still think that they're probably the favorites, and probably should be the favorites. However, the thing to monitor and the reason my opinion may change is that Porzingis injury. I need to see what that is first. Porzingis plays such an important role on that team that I really just feel like I need to see how long he's out, because I don't think with or without Porzingis, they're not going to struggle with the Magic or the Cavs. Those teams are too flawed. Every night Boston's probably got the two best players on the court with Brown and Tatum. But I need to see what that Porzingis injury looks like to see what I would think about how they match up with the Knicks or the Sixers. You know, if the Sixers take this at 7, I mean, I still think they're a formidable foe.
Yeah.
You know,
I did see a stat in that game last night, though, that I think it was after last night's win, they're like 11-3 when Al Horford starts over Porzingis in the playoffs. Like he's like Horford has been a dude for them in the playoffs. He shows
good.
up and plays. Yeah. He's just can't. He's not the guy that's going to give you 38 minutes and not because he's gotten older. We're similar age. You know, he's getting on up there, and for basketball, that's getting old, right?
Yeah, I mean Horford's great. He's one of the most unheralded, really good players of all time. You know, I just. You know, I think that they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's as strongly as I can put it. I think Orlando has not gotten their scars yet. Their problem is the same problem I have with picking Oklahoma City to get in the Western Conference Finals. You know, they just you've got to have those battle scars, and Cleveland's kind of the same way. This team hasn't made a real run in the playoffs yet. They've got more scars than Orlando, but either way, whichever team comes out of that, I don't think either of them have a real shot against Boston. I would think it'd be a 5-game series either way that comes out. And the real decision is who comes out of this Philly-New York Knicks series. And that without Porzingis, I think that series goes 6 or 7. And so you can really flip a coin at that point.
A lot of it depends, too, on how healthy the 76ers are coming out of this matchup, because if Embiid's hurt and slowed down any, you know, if Maxi's not 100% for whatever reason, like this Sixers team feels a little bit more beat up, a little bit more run down. They're not quite as deep as the Knicks are. So that, you know, missing Porzingis, I don't know will hurt him as much against the 76ers, particularly if Joel Embiid is not 100%. But you're absolutely right. Like Hartenstein is going to absolutely cook Boston if they don't have Porzingis to be able to move with him, because Horford is good and he's a great defender, but Hartenstein has quite a bit of size on him, and that's going to matter in a late playoff series like that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in the East. I think it's a lot more like the West. If we could talk about the West for a minute, as excited as I was for Knicks Philly, multiply that times 2. For Nuggets T-Wolves. I cannot wait for Saturday Nuggets and T-Wolves. That's the West. I believe that the winner of this team, there's 3 teams. There's 3 teams that can make it to the finals, in my opinion. It's whoever comes out of this Dallas. I think only 3 teams can win the West. And it's Dallas and Minnesota or Denver. You know, whoever comes out of this Denver-Minnesota matchup, and they will be the Western Conference champions unless Luka comes through.
And that's the only thing I was going to say. I don't believe in Dallas outside of Luka. I think Kyrie is just a weird fit there. They're not super deep outside of Luka and Kyrie.
Kyrie's the truth. He's totally redeemed himself. He has been absolutely stellar in this.
But who else is going to step up outside of Luka and Kyrie? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I get it. Like, I get
all you need role players at that point. You know?
Sure. But it's going to be. I feel like it's a reach to say Dallas can make the finals. I don't know that they can get past.
No team has more star power than the Clippers, and I wouldn't pick them against anybody at this point. Like James Harden's a shrinking violet. Playoff P goes ice cold.
Absolutely.
You know, at random times. Like if the Clippers, I guess what I'm saying, whoever wins the Minnesota Denver matchup is going to be in the Western Conference Finals unless Luka has something to say about it. If Luka folds here and the Clippers, you know, somehow eke this out in 7 games, then I don't think they stand a chance against either Minnesota or Denver.
That one might be a 5-game series. Dallas could probably make it maybe a 6.
Well, you know, and James Harden's just got this thing, you know, he needs to go on that bender, and the longer the playoffs go and he gets in a real slump, you know, he needs to hit the strip clubs, you know, and if an addict doesn't get his fix, he just goes off the rails.
Absolutely.
And in elimination games, Harden's only thinking about, getting to the club.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. 100%. But speaking of club, man, I do want to talk about this. I'm sure you've seen it. They always do exit interviews with the entire team, the owners, the GMs, after your season is over. Ours was weeks ago as our season was wrapped up. Did you see Matt Ishbia's comments about his roster and how any team in the NBA would gladly trade rosters with the Suns right now? Did you see that? Have you seen that rant?
I did see that, and I think if I was a Suns fan, I'd be very upset with it. You don't get to this place that Matt Ishbia has been without being realistic and understanding. I mean, he wasn't handed $1 billion at birth and saying, "Okay, we'll spend it wisely," and he's gotten to where he's at today. Like, he really bootstrapped this thing as much far as I know for Matt Ishbia. He's built a successful company that has provided him fortune that I'll never see, to the point where he can buy the Phoenix Suns, one of the teams in one of the most popular markets in country. And what he's done since then is, I think he's tanked it.
Absolutely.
I said this to you the other day, and I'm going to pull it up. You brought it up on the Daily Grind, the 2021 Phoenix Suns roster. This is the team that he bought. So this team is full of role players, of really good NBA players. Was it 21-22?
21-22.
Yeah.
They made the NBA championship as the number 1 seed. They lost in the finals, but they were the number 1 seed out of the West.
Yeah. So I'm going to just read you this roster. And so this is DeAndre Ayton. I could have started off with a better player, but Bismack Biyombo, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, Frank Kaminsky, Chris Paul, Ish Wainwright, who provided good minutes at least against
He's a role player.
The Grizzlies, but that's a team chock full. You've got 13 roster spots. It's a team chock full of really good NBA players.
Yeah.
And the first thing that Ishbia did when he took over is he sent Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and 4 first-round draft picks and a pick swap to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant, and went all in. I mean, he was handed a team, and he immediately pushed everything in for Kevin Durant. And it's left him with a team that's got Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, and nobody. And
That's
Kevin
it.
Durant and Bradley Beal are old. And so for him to, as a fan, what would frustrate me is you've mortgaged our whole future on Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. It has bitten us in the tail. And instead of getting up there and being a realist and shooting straight with the public, with the consumers, the people who buy tickets and concessions, he got up there and said, "We're fine." But that's the last thing I want to hear. The house is on fire, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was.
We just got swept in the first round against a young up-and-coming superstar in Minnesota. And we've got a 36, 37-year-old dude who hasn't won a title outside of, jumping
Super
in
team.
the boat with a 73-win Warriors team.
Right.
And Bradley Beal, who he ain't never won nothing.
No.
And so we've got these guys on the tail end of their NBA careers who cannot be alphas anymore. And we have no draft picks till 2030.
That's what I was about to say.
We have no way to correct this mistake that you've given us.
You've got one of the game's most prolific young scorers in Devin Booker. You've got 2 old hats, and you don't have a way to correct this until 25, 26. So for him to go on, like you said, he was so tone deaf to go up to that mic and say, of the 29 other NBA owners, 26 would trade everything we have. No, sir, they absolutely would not, because they don't want the mess you've created. You've created a mess in having 2 aging stars and no way to replace them for 2 more draft cycles. And then you got Book, who has been, and I'm not a Devin Booker fan, that's well documented. I think
sorry for him.
He's a bum, but that's I feel sorry for him because the only thing that Ishbia can do right now to make it right for Book is go to him and say, where do you want us to trade you? Because you completely ruined his shot at an NBA championship when you were literally on the cusp. Like I said on the Daily Grind, you move Ayton for a big, you move Chris Paul for a facilitator like a Tyus Jones was the name that I threw out.
Or
but somebody that can just fine. You go after like a Mike Conley. Because Mike Conley at that time was like looking for a new home, leaving Utah, going to Minnesota. Right. You go get a guy that can be a floor general, and you have an NBA championship team, but instead you mortgaged it on a locker room cancer, aging superstar in KD and Bradley Beal, who we don't know what he is because he's been the best player on some bad Washington teams for a long time. And now you've screwed your franchise for the foreseeable future because there's just no way to correct it. And so to these Grizzly fans, if y'all are watching this, and y'all are some of those people on Twitter saying, we need to go after Kevin Durant in the offseason, go somewhere else. It's like, that's ridiculous. We don't need that. Because A, it's going to cost you Ja, Dez, or Jaren, one of those three. And B, we don't need that kind of just hole, that black hole that Kevin Durant can be with a basketball to drag our franchise down. Got on a rant. I just don't, I don't think that 26 other teams would want that situation whatsoever.
No, and I think that there's merit to wanting Kevin Durant. Okay, he is one of the. Well, let me finish. He is one of the, if not the most efficient electric shot makers in the history of the NBA. I mean, that frame to be able to create and shoot, I get it. Like, he's great. However, I look at chemistry, I look at fit, and what you have seen out of Kevin Durant. He bailed on a good thing at Oklahoma City to join a 73-win Warriors team. He won 2 titles. He was the Finals MVP, and I had lost all self-respect in the process, Mm-hmm. And then he went to Brooklyn, and at Brooklyn, he was given James Harden. He was given Kyrie Irving. He picked his own head coach. He picked Steve Nash because Steve Nash was his guy at Golden State. And then he turned on Steve Nash and got Steve Nash fired. And he got Jock Vaughn fired. And then he comes to Phoenix and he runs Monty Williams, who just 2 years ago had taken Phoenix without Kevin Durant to an NBA Finals. Kevin Durant gets there and suddenly Monty Williams is the problem. Boots him out of town. Then they bring in Frank Vogel. And first thing, as soon as they get swept by Minnesota, he's throwing Frank Vogel under the bus. Yeah. You think I want him to come to Memphis? And we've got a core that Taylor Jenkins came to the Grizzlies with Ja Morant. You think Kevin Durant come here? And what's going to happen after the first season when we don't, achieve what we're expected to achieve? And Kevin Durant goes to the nearest media member and tries to pin it on Taylor Jenkins. You think they're going to want to fire Taylor Jenkins? You're going to put your franchise in a situation where you have to pick Kevin Durant or Taylor Jenkins. It's what he's done every single place. And I just don't want any part of it.
I don't, man. I would rather, like we talked about, there's some other trade destinations or trade players that we could go after with teams that need draft capital, i.e. Milwaukee and Brook Lopez. There's ways to make it happen. But Kevin Durant does not check any boxes that we actually need to help our franchise move forward. So no, miss me with that. I don't want him. I don't want and I don't want LeBron James for the same reasons that you've laid out, because he's going to run the coach off. He's going to be the coach. He's going to be the guy. And if it doesn't work out, it's obviously not LeBron James' fault. So both those guys stay far, far away from our franchise.
I think Charles Barkley said it best. He said, a lot of you media members are wanting to be fans or friends with the players, and y'all aren't telling the truth. And he said, all these idiots, all these buffoons, all these jackasses said, y'all, you think that the coach is the problem? Phoenix did not lose because of Frank Vogel. They lost because their players weren't any good. The Lakers did not lose because of Darvin Ham. They lost because their players aren't good. Like, quit. These players, especially superstars, they quit taking any accountability at all. Yeah. And the players don't want to blame. The fans don't want to blame LeBron. Like, who are you to blame the king? Who are you to blame Kevin Durant? Like, that's the people you don't. Nobody sits on the sidelines cheering for Taylor Jenkins or cheering for Darvin Ham or Frank Vogel or Monty Williams or whoever. You don't sit there and cheer for them. You cheer for LeBron But you've got to, as a fan and especially as a media member, be able to look at it and just be like, hey, like these superstars are aging, okay? Yeah, no coach is perfect, but I can promise you that the Lakers' biggest problem is not Darvin Ham. And the Suns' biggest problem is not Frank Vogel. Those were good coaches long before they coached LeBron and KD, and they will be good coaches for after LeBron and KD are gone.
Yep. And that's the perfect way to end our NBA segment. That's great points. So after this commercial break, we'll wrap up with a little bit of NFL talk, and we'll see you on the other side of the commercial break.
I'm just big on being able to vocalize what someone's role is. I always thought my best coaches were the people that let me know exactly what you expect from me. Now, I might not like it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. But if you come to me man to man to say, this is how we think we're gonna play you, bang, 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 and hopefully everybody understand. I'm not saying that this has not been done with this team. I'm just saying from my experience, we all have egos when we get to this game. Right. All of us, to the last person on the bench, you got an ego, but all of us can't be the man. Yeah, you got to be able to say, okay, he's the man, but what do I do and what can I do to help us be good? And if it's vocalized to you, then you know exactly what. And if I'm out there doing it, and now I'm not getting the result from you, now we got to sit down and have another conversation. But as long as it is told to you, this is what we expect from you, this is how we want you to play, then I feel like, again, keeping his logo. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. All right, Christian.
Yes.
You are Penny Hardaway.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Today, you're going to play act, okay? Gabe, because you're a Jordan Brown apologist, you're going to be Jordan Brown.
I'm a Jordan Brown apologist. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Y'all are sitting across the room from each other.
I said, don't tweet him hate. And he's like, you're an apologist. Like, good God. But either way, continue. We're in a room together.
Why did things break down?
Jordan, we brought you in this year to be the centerpiece of our offense. You came in out of shape. Let's call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. We play fast. Told you this when we were recruiting you. We play fast. One of the fastest paces in the country. You have to be able to get up and down the floor. You have failed at that.
Oh, well, I'm leaving. So it's fine.
Cool. Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the final segment of the $2 Sports Show, where we're going to talk about other things not related to the NBA. Mostly, the NFL draft happened last week, Drew, and everybody knows where the picks fell. Everybody's got their opinions. There were some great draft picks. I want to get your opinion on who you think from the early rounds, the first round, second round, anybody that stood out that you think is going to make the quickest impact in the NFL. But first, the most pressing topic. Now, what might have been one of the most boneheaded NFL draft picks we've seen in a long time, and led to some really funny videos and meme of Arthur Blank coming down and talking to the new GM there in Atlanta, but like, bro, what is happening? We just gave, I don't know if you know this or not, but we just gave Kirk Cousins $190 million, and you took a quarterback with our top 10 draft pick when there was still Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, people that he could throw the ball to, still on the table. Hey, what was your initial reaction when they called out Michael Penix for that Atlanta pick?
Well, my first reaction was, did I miss something? Because I was coaching a baseball game and watching a softball game, and so I missed like the first hour and a half of the draft. Which, when you give like 20 minutes per pick, I actually didn't miss much. But I think the last pick that happened before I chimed in was the Penix pick. So I just got on ESPN, scrolled, and just to see who was picked where. And I scrolled to that 8th pick, and I was like, did they really take Penix? And I just jumped in a group message I'm in. I was like, what was the reaction here to taking Penix? Because my first opinion was like, huh? Yeah. That can't be right. That's first, I'm a common sense kind of guy, and I assume everybody else has common sense. So my first thought was ESPN got this wrong, And then it's like, no, actually they didn't. and Atlanta tried to spin it. My first reaction was, "You idiots!" I'm a Saints fan. I was ecstatic that the fact that they took the deplorable franchises as the Atlanta Falcons. They spent, I don't know, close to $200 million on a quarterback, and then used their best asset to draft a quarterback that won't play for 4 years. Right. A quarterback that is currently like 28 years old, coming out of college. Got to be the oldest college player to ever be drafted. I think he was the oldest quarterback drafted since Brandon Whedon. And if you remember
that name Whedon, from Oklahoma State. Yeah.
If Brandon Whedon was so old coming out of college because he had a pro baseball career and he went back to college. Yeah. And, like, he's the only person that has been older than Michael Penix been taken. And I mean, it's just total buffoonery. And what made it even funnier was the spin job. And they even like hook, line, and sinker Dan Orlovsky. Like the spin job, just everybody's like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. The spin job was, we feel like we're going to compete. We'll never have a high draft pick for the next, as long as Kirk Cousins is our quarterback, we'll never have another high draft pick. We needed to take advantage of having the 8th pick to get the quarterback that we wanted. We thought he was the best quarterback on the board and all this other kind of stuff. And I was just like, ultimately it comes down to this. That's the last thing I said about it. If you pay 150, 180, I don't remember what the number was, for a quarterback, and you make a pick, this guy has not played for you yet. He has not practiced with you yet. And the first thing you do, here is Kirk Cousins, our franchise quarterback. He has thrown for X amount of yards. He's led successful teams to this, and this. You introduce him, and the first thing you do with him as your franchise player is to draft his replacement.
Yeah.
Like,
sour grapes already.
You made a decision that made your star quarterback unhappy and the person you just drafted unhappy. Because Michael Penix didn't want to go to Atlanta.
No.
He's not going to play.
Exactly. And so I don't know who
was
was more
upset. We're pissed now.
I don't know who was more upset. Kirk Cousins, Atlanta Falcons fans, or dogs in Atlanta when they drafted a left-handed quarterback named Michael. Sorry, I had to put that joke in there somewhere. But I agree. It's just it's buffoonery to waste a top 10 pick on a backup, particularly when there are players that check boxes that you need, because they've got Bijan, they've got Kyle Pitts, they've got some talented dudes. Their O-line is very good. They've Drake London, but like that's really it. Like I think they signed Darnell Mooney from Chicago, so they got a couple decent receivers. But when you could go get like Roma Dunze was still there, right?
No, that's not what you do at all. This draft, it was the longest to start an NFL draft that a defensive player was not taken.
That's it. There's some good edge rushers.
With the 8th pick of the draft, you could have gotten the best defensive player available. Period.
And Lord knows Atlanta couldn't stop a soul last year.
There is no higher paid positions in the NFL than quarterback, left tackle, and edge rusher. Go get you the best edge rusher / outside linebacker that money can buy in this draft. I mean, just if you're telling your fans the reason that you're taking Michael Penix with the 8th pick of the draft is because you know that you're going to be good for the next as many years as Kirk Cousins is there, then go do something to help Kirk Cousins. It's a no-brainer.
Especially when they couldn't stop a nosebleed last year. And I'm pulling up to see who was the first defensive player taken, because there were some really good ones still on the board.
I believe it was that edge rusher / outside linebacker from UCLA. Right?
Yeah, Latu, last name Latu. Latu was the first one, pick number 15 for the Colts, followed by Byron Murphy from Texas, who is an absolute menace on the defensive line. Either one of those cats would have fit in there perfectly, because again, they couldn't stop a nosebleed last year. And so, like you said, you want to help Kirk Cousins. You're not going to get him a weapon, get the best defensive player that's available so you can actually stop somebody. But instead, you go piss off your franchise quarterback by pissing off the backup quarterback, because neither of them want the other one to be there, because one of them ain't going to play. And if you're Kirk Cousins, then that's going to set you up for looking over your shoulder of like, okay, you drafted Michael Penix, you're paying him top 10 money. I've got a much shorter leash now than I had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I just think it's hysterical that they had the nerve to tell their fan bases that we're going to be too good to draft a quarterback when we need to draft a quarterback, and we're going to be so good that we don't even need a defensive lineman. Like
bro,
we
watched y'all play the last couple of years
because we added Kirk Cousins. We don't need a defensive end. Shut up. That's stupid. Like you've lost your ever loving mind. And
that's stupid, man.
I hate it for Michael Penix. I loved Michael Penix in college. I do believe he's got the best arm in the draft. You know, there's knocks against him, of course, his injury history, you know, whatever. But I loved Michael Penix at Washington. Loved him at Indiana. It's just a shame, man.
You know, and then you know, other kind of different picks. You know, it makes sense for Minnesota when your best option is Blake Darnold. You go get a quarterback. They got JJ McCarthy, who's really good at handing the ball off.
And they also have Sam Darnold.
And Sam Darnold. That's the.
Welcome to the 2 Buck Sports Show.
Welcome to the 2 Buck Sports Show. But I think of, like, obviously Caleb Williams is going to play. Obviously Jaden Daniels, Drake May are going to play. I think Bo Nix has a really good shot in starting Denver because it's Bo Nix and his competition is Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson is trash, man. And so Sean Payton, what are you going to do?
If you would have talked to him the next day, he thought he'd won the lottery. Sean Payton's got that complex where he's the smartest guy in every room he walks in, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I baited the Vikings into taking JJ McCarthy," and I was like, "Oh, okay, shut up." And then to say that Bo Nix, I feel with the 11th pick or with the 10th pick, I was going to take Patrick Mahomes. When I was the coach of the Saints, I'd already written his name down on the card to turn it in, and the Chiefs traded up to get him. One, that hurt me hard, to hear that. If it's true.
If it's true.
And then to follow it up by saying, I feel as strongly about Bo Nix as I did about Patrick Mahomes. I was like, shoot. And Bo Nix didn't throw the ball past the line of scrimmage ever.
At Auburn or Oregon. He hit bubble screens left and right. That sounds like LeBron James with some of his predictions, right? Like I knew this was going to happen, or been listening to Migo since 99 or high school or whatever.
Yeah. LeBron James says it after the fact. He's like, "Oh yeah, I knew that." Like, shut
up. I think those are going to be some impact players. Of the top 10 of the first round, is there another one that stands out to you? You know, for me, I think looking up and down, I think Rome Odunze in Chicago's got a really good chance to be a number one receiver. They've got Keenan Allen, who's aging out. They've got DJ Moore, who's great, but Rome Odunze is a big body. Caleb Williams is going to be throwing the ball a lot, obviously. I don't hate that fit. The one I feel the worst for, though, is Marvin Harrison Jr., man. Like, just to see he's like Larry Fitzgerald all over again. We're going to see a great all-pro, all-talented receiver go to Arizona and waste away with a bad quarterback.
Yeah, it's very possible. You know, I do think Kyler's good. I don't think Kyler's great, but I think there's so very few great quarterbacks in the NFL anyways. There's a very thick middle tier, and he's comfortably in that middle tier quarterbacks.
Sure.
And Marvin Harris will be fine. I think Rome Odunze was a good pick. I think that if you're Caleb Williams, you couldn't pick a better spot to land in. You've just got so many toys to play with. And that's not the case with a lot of, first overall picks that are quarterbacks.
Especially not in Chicago.
I mean, you compare this, just go back 12 months and compare this to what Bryce Young went into. Like, just trash. So, I like the boring picks in the first round. I think Joe Alt going to the Chargers was about the smartest thing the Chargers could have done.
Absolutely. I don't know who Herbert's going to
smacked.
I don't know who he's going to throw it to, but that was a smart pick.
Yeah. It's the thing about the Patriots dynasty and all these quarterbacks that have gone on to like live in this lore and this pantheon of greatest quarterbacks of all time. One common denominator is that they don't get hit. I mean, it's such an unsexy pick. But if Justin Herbert is the hypothetical Hall of Famer, and if he's ever going to live up to any of the hype that he's gotten in his life, and he's gotten some high praise for somebody who really hadn't done much, if there's one reason he hasn't, it's because he can't stay upright. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Sometimes coaching and team building is just as simple as that. And Jim Harbaugh knows how to put a team together. He did the same thing with San Francisco. He did it at Stanford with Luck. He did it with McCarthy. He's won everywhere because the first thing that he does is he gets his big uglies upright. You know, he gets the trenches set like he likes them. And to go take the undoubted best offensive lineman at 5 and to do it with a little trickery, because I don't think many people thought they were going that way. Although it seemed like a no-brainer after the fact, because it's like, oh, duh, Jim Harbaugh took an offensive lineman. Why didn't we see that coming? You know?
Yeah. But everybody's pegging some of these other receivers. For me, speaking of Bryce Young and San Francisco, I like the way the first round ended for those two teams. Xavier Leggett was made to play at Carolina. Being from South Carolina with that accent, he's from Mullins, which is right down the road from Myrtle Beach. I've been through Mullins 100 times. That tracks. Like, I love that accent. I'm all in on Xavier Leggett. I hope he has a phenomenal NFL career. I love that kid. Just humble, just country guy from Mullins, South Carolina. And I tell you, man, if there was a receiver that was made to go to San Francisco, it's Ricky Pearsall from Florida. I mean, that guy fits Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Good route runner.
Fit in, good route runner, good hands, doesn't drop a lot of passes, finds ways to get open. He's going to complement Debo really, really well in that offense. Brandon Ayuk, if he's still there, that's debatable. But I think those were two really good picks to close out the first round. I'm a fan of the Titans pick since we are talking Tennessee, sports fans here.
Yeah, you had to go.
It was a smart pick. The offensive line, our O-line coach said that was his favorite offensive lineman in the draft. J.C. Latham is a dog. He stays healthy. He's mean. He's a guy that he was healthy. He didn't miss a lot of games at Alabama. Right. Like you said, it's coach speak, but still. Love the
What's he going to do the day after he drafts J.C. Latham? Say, well, he would have taken Joe Alt, but
if he was there. Yeah.
Like, no coach is ever going to say that. You always hire the first, the coach you hire was always your first choice. The draft pick that you pick was always your first choice. Like,
right. Well, I like J.C. Latham. He's a dog. He stays healthy. I think he's great. They gave us some flack for reaching there, but I think he was a good pick. I think he was a need. I like him better than
about mocks. Now, everybody wants to just say, "Oh, well, he was mocked in the teens, and you took him at 7." Like, who cares? We needed him. Like, team needs.
And honestly, I think him and the guy from Penn State are the same player. It's just what you see in him and what you want to get out of him. I like the way the rest of the draft went. T'Vondre Sweat from Texas is an earth mover. He's a little bit heavy. He's got to show that he can stay in shape. But you
didn't even know that guy before they drafted him.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Guy was a finalist for Lombardi. He was a good player at Texas. Yeah, it was. I saw that yesterday.
I mean, that's fine.
Outland Trophy. He won the Outland Trophy.
You don't tell me you knew the Texas offensive lineman before the Titans drafted him.
So you don't even know who he is. He's a defensive lineman. He is a defensive tackle.
Okay. Did you know who? Did you know his name?
Absolutely, because he was in our mock drafts. So somebody we're going to take. I like the T'Vondre Sweat pick. I like the Cedric Gray pick from North Carolina. He's a thumper. Again, he's kind of heavy, but if he can lose some weight, learn how to play pass defense. ESPN gave us a C+. I think we did pretty well for our needs and what we needed in Tennessee. Of course you would. Of course you would. You're just trying to be salty. You just big mad. You big mad is all that is. Anyway, speaking of the Titans, the last thing I want to say about that before we wrap this baby up, Tyler Boyd signed today, 2-year, $15 million with Tennessee. Came over from Cincinnati. He knows the system. He knows the offense. I think it's a great pickup.
Your coach was the OC at Cincinnati.
At Cincinnati. Yeah. So now we've got Tyler Boyd in, 2-year, $15 million. Which still leaves us $23 million open in cap space heading in. It's in the top 10 of available cap space in the NFL. I don't think Rand is done. I'm a big fan of this pickup. We went high with Calvin Ridley, probably overpaid a little bit. I feel like this is a great market value for what we are getting in Tyler Boyd. Now Will Levis has Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, and D-Hop to throw the football to.
Yeah.
The weapons are coming together.
Mayonnaise Boy has got a lot of good options to pick from, but he's going to choose to throw it to the other team instead.
More often than not, I'm afraid you're absolutely right. Because you know what he doesn't have anymore? He can't turn around and hand it to Derrick Henry anymore.
Right. Yeah. You know, Tyler Boyd is one of those guys. I think of a lot of fantasy football leaks into like my actual like football thoughts, which is probably not a good way to consider fantasy football or football players. But Tyler Boyd was always that. Would you rather have Tyler Boyd in the 11th round or take T. Higgins in the 5th? Because you know that it's more times than not, it's going to be Tyler Boyd, you know?
Yeah.
But he would never had it. I'll put it to you this way. If T. Higgins comes back and what's his name? I just said his name and I forgot it. Jamar Chase. If Jamar Chase will be there, if T. Higgins comes back, both of them will say, like, thank God Tyler Boyd's gone. He just vultures everything. Like he's an unnecessary third option. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me
creates a log jam.
And fantasy players are like, yeah, get Tyler Boyd out of there. I want to draft Jamar Chase with the 4th pick of the draft, and Tyler Boyd's a problem.
Yeah, because it's a sexy pick, right? But Tyler Boyd is going to he's going to win you championships from late round pickups because he's that guy that just gets touchdowns. He gets red zone targets. I love the pickup for Tennessee. And again, we still got $23 million. We still need linebacker help, edge rusher, and secondary help. We got $23 million to do it. So go do it, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I did not even know that happened today. I saw you put it in the show doc, and I was like, oh, he must have signed with the Titans, or Rusty wouldn't care.
Exactly. So tighten up. Tyler Boyd, Titan.
Yeah. So what else you got for me, Buckets?
That's it, man. That's all I got. Anything standing out to you want to talk about, or are we going to shut this bad boy down at an hour and a half?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is that Tiger Woods did all fans an injustice with his new clothing thing. His logo's stupid. It's too expensive.
Way too expensive.
You really just overcooked the goose. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't that hard to come up with your own logo. Like, just take that Masters silhouette from the 2019 Masters with him with the club up over his head, you know, fist pump one hand, putter in the other hand. Take that, or do the fist bump, you know, the patented, you know, walk into the pin fist bump silhouette. Put that as your logo, and to sell a polo for $150, give me a break.
And the logo looks too big, and it reminds me of like that Schlesinger that's already got a tiger. You can find it at TJ Maxx, or you can find it at Ross's. That's what it looks like. It's going to be a big logo. I agree. I don't love it. The Sunday Red thing is pretty cool. Like, I like the theme, but I'm not going to pay $200 for a sweater or $150 for a polo. There's no way.
No, I'm going to go to Marshall's and get one of those Greg Norman ones because they're $20. And
that's it. I had on a shirt today, and I think y'all seen it on the Daily Grind. It's a white shirt. It's got all the different like colored flowers on it. I got it at TJ Maxx for $12.99. Like, that's the golf shirt that I'm going to buy.
Yeah. My golf game is suited for Whispering Pines and Kossuth, and my golf attire is the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm consistent. I cannot think of a worse idea than for me as I would be a scratch golfer if par was 100. You know what I'm saying? if I were to go buy like a brand new $1,200 set of Titleist irons and Pro V1s and a Tiger Woods Sun Space Day Space Red branded $150 polo to show up to that at some country club and then to hit a $150. Like, no, I mean, no. I'm not his target market. I understand that, but I'm all about the consumer. Like, do you want to sell clothes or not? That's my thing. Like,
the problem is he's going to sell them. He's going to sell, and they're going to sell like hotcakes, but not to the $2 Sports Show, and hopefully not to the fans of the $2 Sports Show. We trust y'all are more fiscally savvy than that.
I don't know, Rusty, because we've tried to give away shirts on this here show before. All you got to do is win an NCAA tournament bracket, and no one claims it. Looking at you,
pretty chalky. Who are you? Pretty chalky. Who are you?
So, that's all I've got, Buckets. This has been a fun hour and a half. We've went a little longer than normal, but sometimes I feel like it's necessary. We got to get this is a weekly show. You get it on Fridays at 3:00 here on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. So you take the weekend to digest this thing, as long as you digest it in whole. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. And the same. We didn't talk for several days. I was on vacation. You were busy. We finally talked earlier this week. There are no refunds for what you hear on this show, even if it is an hour and a half long.
Yeah, because we're the $2 Sports Show. You always get what you pay for. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.